Okay, publishing. Our third phase, we can streamline our publishing process by first learning how to bulk upload content into Webflow. And we can take it further by automating the transfer of content into the Webflow CMS. Webflow is very, very powerful. It's a no-code platform that allows us to design and build and launch responsive websites visually without writing any code. It's a no-code platform. Webflow renders websites on multiple devices, widescreen monitors, laptops and phones. That's responsive content. It's very powerful at creating professional-looking websites. The templates that we can leverage for Webflow look fantastic. It has a thriving community of designers who create templates, and Webflow looks very, very good. But the real power for me of Webflow lies in the CMS and how we can leverage the CMS for content, for our content workflows. We can do a lot with the bulk transfer, which is manual from a CSV file, from a spreadsheet into Webflow, but we can also do a lot to automate our content workflows, taking data from Airtable and pushing it into Webflow. We can manage dynamic content. We can customize content structures, so we can add on data points. Perhaps a spreadsheet has a certain number of columns, if you think in terms of the columns in a spreadsheet. But with Webflow, we can add on a column and then push that data into Webflow. It handles that very well. It's really great at handling content, and the CMS is very powerful, but we can simplify content updates either manually or through an automated workflow as well. And we will look at how AdSkills has leveraged Webflow. Happily Unemployed has also leveraged Webflow, but we will look at how we can build out our automated publishing platform using Webflow. It's a very powerful part of the process and worth learning, I would suggest, to leverage in your own business and in the businesses that you serve. Webflow, after Airtable, might be one of the most important no-code tools in our stack. It's where we can create content with all of our different automations and publish that content to Webflow. And Webflow is a powerful platform for creating websites, responsive websites. And a very powerful feature of Webflow is the CMS, the Content Management System. And that's what we'll primarily focus on today. What Webflow offers us is a vast array of different things that we can build, and we can go extremely in-depth with customization on our websites and building in automations and building in animations and all sorts of different things. But we want to mainly focus on the CMS today as we go through the custom builds where we build together. We work through the case study to build a platform that will go more in depth and make much more finer tweaks to Webflow as we build together. But for now, we'll focus on what it does as far as content publishing and the CMS feature, and we'll go deeper when we build together. So Webflow is very powerful. One thing to say is that it's very well invested. They are funded well, and there's lots of development going on. This year's Webflow conference has just concluded, which was in face-to-face in a number of different cities all around the world and also online. And there was a lot that was announced that give me confidence in the platform moving forward. And it makes it, for me, all the more worthwhile to invest our time and effort to learn how to best leverage Webflow. And it's an important part in our no-code stack today, but I think in the future as well. The development, the direction that it's going in, it's very promising. And so if we look just for a second at the updates, there's a couple of updates that make Webflow all the more appealing moving forward. Webflow Analyze was announced, which, as much as we were able to track performance of the site and to see visitor behavior in Google Analytics, because we could track our pages and conversions inside of Google Analytics. There are some visual dashboards that are available to us now as Webflow Analyze is released, and that's very powerful, very promising. So I'm excited about that. There's also Webflow Optimize. So that was Webflow Analyze. This is Webflow Optimize, which brings native onboard conversion testing to a tool like Optimizely or VWO, a third-party tool like Optimizely or Visual Website Optimizer is replaced now by Webflow Optimize. So that's a very exciting development. And in our business, we host most of our content on Webflow, but landing pages and sales pages we might build in Unbounce, for example, because that allows us to split test and track conversions very easily. And I wonder if moving forward, if we might see a shift in our business away from Unbounce with more of an emphasis on Webflow with these different features that are now being added on. And so I have confidence in the platform moving forward. It's very exciting, the different things that are being announced. But what does Webflow do for us? We can create a platform, we can take templates, and we can make beautiful websites, responsive websites that look great across whichever device we're using to view the platform. If we're using a laptop or a big widescreen monitor or iPads or mobile, then Webflow handles each of those devices very well and helps us to just filter the design based on which device is going to be used. And so in the design process, it's very easy to say that on this platform, it will look like this. On this screen size, it'll look like this. And it renders most of that automatically for us. But then Webflow does give us the opportunity to go in and to make those tweaks in a very simple manner, all with no code. So if I look at the templates, we can scroll through a vast array of templates. And because Webflow is so well funded and the community is so vibrant in Webflow, what you find with the templates is that they are professional looking. There are many free templates that we can use. There are many paid templates that we can use. And the free ones are extremely professional in design, in functionality. And if we want to invest in the template, then that just expands our options even more. The templates in Webflow are very professional, very up to date, very sharp, and we've got lots of options. The community is so vibrant. Let's just look briefly at how we would go about launching a new site in Webflow and then applying a template, and then we can look at how to make adjustments to the template from there, and then we'll focus on the CMS as well. So when I'm logged into Webflow, I can hit New Site, get this option to run with a blank site or with a template. So if we click on Template, we can see in this modal within the Webflow design area, we can search through a number of suggested templates, and we can filter for free and paid. So there's free templates, and we can click down here just to go ahead and open in a brand new tab the site that we looked at before, which encompasses all of the templates. So I'll close that one and go back to the modal. And if we take something like this one, for example, just nice and simple, I could click to preview the template, can scroll through to see what it offers. I can hit escape to come out of there. Maybe didn't want to escape all the way out of there. I click free again. We can go back and find a different template. So if we just grab one template for now, then if we take this one, select, and we could change the name, create the site, and it does its magic. It pulls the template in and gives it to us so we can start to edit. Okay, so now we have the main design area. I want to focus on the CMS, less so on making design changes for now, because as we walk through the build together to build out the case study site, then we'll build more intricately, make finer tweaks to design. But I could just begin to double tap into here and just change text. We can make simple changes straight away. Okay, let's look at the existing ad skills site. We'll look at it on the front end published, and then we'll look at it inside of Webflow to see how it's built out, how it's set up in the CMS, to see where we stage the blog posts and how that ties into the template on the front end. And let's do that now. So this is the ad skills site. This is published. This is in my browser. So this is the landing page that you'll see if you go to adskills.com at the moment. And if I go and show you this site inside of Webflow, then it looks like this in the design area. So I'm currently looking at the view in Webflow that allows me to edit the homepage. If I wanted to look to see what other pages are available to edit, I can click on the existing page that we're looking at, and it gives me a list of the different pages. So it's a very simple setup at the moment in the newest ad skills site. And so we've got a home page, a contact page, we have a blog page, and then some legal pages. And one of the things to say is that there's a difference between the pages that we're able to build that are single, static, standalone pages. And I would say that static and standalone pages are the home page, the contact page, even the blog collection page that brings all of the blog posts together. So that looks like this. I click on blog on the published site. This is a static page. It does have blog post content on it, which is served from the CMS, and I'll show you why in a second. But this is a page that catches all of the posts and brings them together. And then we could click out to each individual post from there, obviously, to see the individual blog post pages. So I show you that to emphasize the difference between a static page and a page that is served from the CMS. So let's look at that just now. We can build responsive pages that look great on all of our different devices, but we want to understand that a CMS collection page is less of a page and more of a template. And then we connect the template page to all of the data that comes from the CMS. And so to understand that helps us to understand how powerful Webflow is and how it has this strong ability to scale without us having to build individual post pages. Much like WordPress, but we'll see in time how powerful the CMS that lives inside of Webflow, how powerful that really is and how we can leverage it. So if we go to the CMS, for example, so left-hand side, down here, we can click on the CMS that looks like disks and data and records. So if we come into the CMS collections, I'll show you that we have 94 posts in this particular Webflow site at the moment. And one of the things that happened with AdSkills recently is that we rebranded. So we took the old Webflow site, the old AdSkills site that was built on Webflow, which had a CMS collection integrated into that site. We exported all of the posts down to a CSV. We came to the new Webflow site, imported the CSV, and mapped each of the data points. But the process is relatively simple. To take a large amount of data, whether it comes from one Webflow site in the rebrand, bringing it over to the new site, or staging blog post content inside of Airtable in our visual database, we can export from Airtable and just push it automatically into Webflow. And so this idea of being able to automate content creation at scale and to pass that data into Webflow is very, very powerful. So if we see an individual blog post just now, we look at, say, ugly ads, big profits. If I click on this, you'll see that we've got different data points. So there's the name, there's the slug, there's a sub-headline, and then there's the content itself, which is in rich text format. So we can, so I add in a headline, define it as an H2. So I can make these changes just visually within this space. And I'll show you again how we can do that on the front end as well, so we have a better idea of what things look like as we change it. But I want you to focus on the fact that there's different data points. And this is one big data point, the rich text field here. But we also have a main image, a thumbnail image, and some toggles as well that we can make use of just to define what happens when that blog post is published. If it's a featured post, it may appear in a particular place on Webflow. If it's a featured post, it may have a particular layout as opposed to the rest of the posts. So if we go back then to the page, we said that there are static pages and there are CMS template pages. Let's look at the template page for a blog post. We'll discard those changes. So if this wasn't open, we're in the design area. If we want to choose which page that we're looking at, we'll click on the current page title. That opens up the menu to see all the static pages. And if we just go further down, we can see that we have a CMS collection page. So I'll click on this. This is the blog post template. So on the front end, on a published page, it looks like this. A published post looks like this. This is Ugly Ads, Big Profits from Jason Stogstill. And if I go to the template page, it looks different. So that's because this is a different post, but it's actually the same post because it's the same layout. So if I click on, not on the page menu, but just to the right, this is the collection that we're looking at, which is the blog post collection. If I click on this, I can see all of the posts that are being served from the CMS, from the blog post collection. And I can click on any one of these to view how it looks in the context of the template. So, for example, here's a different post. The image changed, the headline changed, all the content down here has changed as well. And again, we can choose a different post. The main image changes, the headline changes, and all of the rich text content has changed as well. So we're working with a template, and we just have to marry the template up to the blog post collection. So for example, and we'll go more into depth. For example, we'll go more in depth with this when we build together. But if I was to say this piece of data here, which is our headline, we can see that when we click on it, it's defined as an H1, heading style H1, and then we've got this cog. So I'll just click on the cog and I'll show you how this connects to the CMS collection. So click on the cog, and if we see the text here is purple, and that's our clue to, it's our visual cue to help us to understand that this piece of data is connected to the CMS, and it's going to be served dynamically. Whatever changes in the CMS will be represented on the front end of the template. So if I click on this, these are the different options that we could have. These are the different options that we could have represented here. So I could say, if we click on the slug, that would show the pathway in this position as opposed to the title of the post. If I click again, I could show the subheadline that would appear there. Now, we wouldn't want to do that, but I want to show you how easy it is to make a template and connect it. I want to show you how easy it is to take the template and connect it to the CMS collection so that we can take this vast amount of data and connect it to the template and to have all of that content shown in the right place at the right time. That's how we take the template and connect it to the CMS. And it's one of the most powerful parts of Webflow in the context of our content creation workflow. Each of these stages that we can automate, and ultimately we can automate these posts back into Webflow and to publish them on Webflow. There are a vast array of options here that we will explore together. But I want to stay at a high level just now, having shown you this CMS collection, how we can update posts, add posts, and in the CMS collection, I could click on blog posts. I can export all of the posts and they come down immediately, and I could go and I could open them in spreadsheet. So this is the CMS collection. downloaded to CSV format and opened in a spreadsheet. All the different data points that we would need, we could open this in the Airtable, and we could import it into Airtable and make edits in there and push it back into webflow. We could save this CSV, even just using a simple spreadsheet, to update the data and push it back into webflow again. It's a very powerful feature, and it's one that we can leverage very effectively in our content creation workflow. Okay, so we can view all the pages that are available to us to edit. We can update a template and tie it to the collection to dynamically serve content into our website. And while we're building out each of these pages, as we go, we don't need to publish to the web to be able to view the site and to see how it looks. We can hit this play button up here, which renders this site in the format of the device that is selected. So if you can see here, we could view on tablet, and it would look like this. Horizontal mobile and vertical mobile. And this is an important thing to focus on as well, is that each of these different views represent different breakpoints or different device sizes. And one of the devices that's represented here has an asterisk or a star next to the icon. And you may see on some templates that have a layout which is prepared for a big widescreen monitor, you would see that to the left of the desktop breakpoint, you would see to the left, there could be another option for a widescreen monitor, or even two different sizes of widescreen monitors, or a high definition monitor. So all of the devices are listed at the top, but only one of them will be starred. And if you hover over this one, it says desktop styles apply at all breakpoints, unless they're edited at a larger or smaller breakpoint. Start your styling here. Whenever you make changes in Webflow, make the changes that you want to be represented across all devices, make them on the base breakpoint. And this is something that you might come up against. You might accidentally be viewing a site on a different device size, make changes, and then when you publish your site and view it on a laptop or at the desktop size, you might find that the changes have not been rendered across all of the device sizes. And that's just because when you edit on the base breakpoint, all of the changes that you make, content changes or design and layout changes, are there rendered across all devices. And I would be embarrassed to admit how many times I've made changes which are not on the base breakpoint I've published, and they don't render across all devices because any changes I make to an individual breakpoint, tablet, for example, or vertical mobile, they only then apply in a downward cascading format. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that if I make changes on the base breakpoint, everything to the right of that will also have the same change, and everything to the left of it will also have the same change. But if I edit on, for example, the tablet breakpoint, then that change to design and layout or to text would be rendered across all devices to the right. So that would be for a tablet, that would be for a horizontal mobile and vertical mobile. And it would not be reflected on the base breakpoint, which in our case right now is the desktop. If we make changes to the mobile landscape, then that would be rendered for the mobile landscape view and also to the vertical mobile view. It would not be rendered onto the tablet breakpoint or the base breakpoint. So it's very important to pay attention to that. You may make that mistake and you'll have to come back and lose all of the changes that you've made and build it out again. So it's a very powerful feature to show us what's going on, but it can also trip us up as well. So let's pay attention to that. And then to come back into the edit view again, I can hit play and we come back into design mode again. If I want to publish, I can select which domain I want to publish to. We can have multiple domains here, production domains. I could have an adskills.com. I could have a www.adskills.com domain, and I could check those and publish to both of those. I can also publish to a staging domain if I also want to see how it looks in the wild or share it with my team. Then I could leave the main production site unchecked. I could publish to the staging site and hit publish. Okay, so I can see that this is published to the staging domain. I can just click on the arrow here. It opens a brand new tab for me, and you can see that it's published to the staging domain as opposed to the main domain of adskills.com. And that just means that I could make changes that are proposed changes, or we can make changes that are to be published, intended to be published, but they're not published for our audience to see just yet. So then I can share this link with our team internally to review how something will look, and when it's signed off, then we can publish. So that would be one use of the staging domain. And the staging domain could look different to the production domain. If I go back here, I can just simply unpublish if I need to do that, and then I could republish to the main domain. Let me just show you how expansive the CMS feature is on webflow. This is learn.adskills.com. And on this domain, we've got multiple CMS collections. And each of these CMS collections have varying numbers of line items in them. For example, there's a searchable CMS collection, and it has over 800 items. I'll take a bit for that to come up. But then, as small as 9 items in a different CMS collection. Mentor calls 75 items. So we can separate data, separate content into multiple collections, and then each of these collections could have a different layout. We would just marry this collection to a different template. So if I go to the pages on the left-hand side here, click on pages, we can click to close the folders and keep going. We'll get to this section, which is CMS collection pages. And each of these templates, or each of these templated pages, is tied to a different CMS collection. So each of those collections in all of the different silos of content, just different silos of data, they can each be rendered onto our site when published in a different layout on the page. We've got the flexibility to take one collection and style it in one way, and another collection and style it in a different way, which is a very powerful feature. And if we look now, before we finish, and not at a static page and not necessarily at a CMS collection page, but we'll look at a page that is a bit of both worlds. It is a static page, but it pulls content from the collection and renders it on the page. So if we look not at the home page, but at the blog page, that page lives in the static pages section. But one of the layout items that are on this page, I show you in this listing of the structured layout of the page, we have a list wrapper. And what the list does is it's going to take this collection and draw from the CMS collection blog posts, and it's going to render just a small part of each of the blog posts on our static page. And so the CMS collection works in much the same way as the template page, in that when we take an individual element on the page and tie it to the CMS collection, we can actually do that in a smaller scale on these static pages. And so if we were to go again to the blog posts page, I could go to the headline, click on the cog, and I can see that this is the data point that we can change. We could also look over here to the side. If we go to settings, I can see that it's the same data point. Again, it's purple. It's a visual cue to show me that it's tied to the CMS collection. And I could change that data point here to a different part of the CMS collection. And if I go to the blog page, which is a static page, Then I go inside of the collection. I'll show you how this is structured. So we have the wrapper itself, we've got the list, and then we've got each collection item. And so this is one of the collection items, one representation of one of the blog posts, and then obviously it's mirrored. So I change one, and that's rendered across all of these line items in the collection. So for example, if we use our headline again, so we take our heading, I can click on the cog, and I can change this not to be the name, but to be slug. And that's updated across each of the posts, which doesn't serve us well, but shows us how powerful the CMS collection is. I'll change that back again. So I could do it here, or I can also do it over here on the right-hand side of the page as well. Once I've clicked on it, I can come over here, and I'm just editing the first one. Come to the right-hand side, click on name, and that takes the title back again. So Webflow is a super powerful platform. The CMS collection is just wonderful. We can automate content creation at scale, bring that content into Webflow, and then serve it dynamically at scale on our Webflow site. And we can have static pages, just as we would in any web building platform. And we have our home page and our contact page, a static page with no dynamic content. We can have the templated pages, which are tied strongly to the CMS collection, where every collection can have its own layout, its own templated page. And we have this combo of a static page, which also draws from the CMS collection as well. And in this case, we can show each of our blog posts and link out to individual posts from there. Webflow is awesome. It is worthwhile learning Webflow. This is a high-level look at it. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of building in Webflow when we build out our case study together. But Webflow is well-funded. It's not going away. It is well served with a vibrant community with great templates, beautiful templates to draw upon. And there are a number of other ways as well that we can begin to build out a Webflow site where we don't use a template, but we rely on a collection of modular blocks of content that we can build out manually that way as well. And we will explore the different ways to build in Webflow as we continue.